Look at, if you want to do this from a cost-effective standpoint, and you look at what we're spending to reduce nitrogen in wastewater treatment or in septics, okay, the cost per pound to dredge above the dam is about a penny a pound. Okay, I mean it's very small.
And below the dam?
Below the dam, if you look at what we're spending on wastewater treatment or stormwater retrofits, I mean you're looking at very expensive per pound cost. I don't want to cite them right off the top of my head. But it's more cost-effective to dredge what's above there where it's sitting, okay, than either chasing it around like the Port Administration is doing. Marylanders did not put, in Maryland activity, did not put the sediments in what's sitting above that dam. That all came down from New York and Pennsylvania. So the real question is, when is the state of Maryland going to recognize this problem and say, you know what, we're focused on the small stuff. If we really want to make a difference, we, the state of Maryland, will put pressure on Pennsylvania and New York to start doing their part. And the way to do that is really pressure on EPA. EPA came up with this pollution diet. When it came out, Maryland said, hey, not only are we going to do it, we're going to do it faster than everybody. Well, they went back on that and said, no, we'll get it done when everybody else done. But nobody can dispute this fact. Maryland has done more and spent more to improve the water quality of the bay than any of the northern states. That's undisputed. And what's happening in the Susquehanna River tells us how little is being done above that dam. And really, what the coalition is trying to do is really get the state of Maryland to rethink, instead of forcing stuff down on local governments and local Maryland taxpayers, why don't we redirect all that energy to EPA to recalibrate the TMDL and put pressure on Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania should be contributing money to dredge those reservoirs. We've been told too by some people, you know, gosh, when you push back, when local governments push back, the message we're sending to our upper stream states is, oh, we don't care so much, so they're not going to care so much. Well, our clients, our local officials, didn't take an oath in office to set a moral example for Pennsylvania. I mean, this is a legal issue. This is a lot of money at stake. Pennsylvania is not ready to do their part for various reasons, and it's going to take more of a push. And instead of all the pushing down to local governments, all the mandates on Maryland local governments, making local officials feel like they're not doing enough, we've done a lot. Through zoning, through other contributions, Maryland has made a lot of progress. The State Department, the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Environment has said publicly, we've basically met our 2017 TMDL goals. Well, if that's the case, then how about a timeout while we go put pressure on the upper stream states and see if we can get something done
during their
about these
licensing of
reservoirs.
FERC?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, but you're saying Maryland could still, even though it's not, what's behind the Conowingo Dam isn't born in Maryland, Maryland could still put in some funds, even though it's not their problem, because it would certainly be less than implementing the local.
Absolutely. In fact, I think there may be some local governments that would rather contribute money to that activity than the mandates they're being told they should be spending or committing taxpayer money to. Because if you want your best bang for your buck and you want to make a meaningful difference, that's the critical activity. Not only to make an immediate difference, but to preserve all the investments we've made below the dam already. And we can't afford to do everything at the same time. This is really about prioritizing. There may be a time when regulating septics is the most important critical activity to improve water quality. It's hard with a straight face to say that's an important activity to do before we do something about the Conowingo. So this isn't about picking or choosing either or permanently, it is about prioritizing. And that's really what the coalition counties are saying is, look, we want to do everything we can, but we're limited in our resources, and we want to just make sure we're doing it in the right order.
And you also don't want to put all these resources into WIP plans below the dam and then have one storm event that wipes out all that cost that you've just spent to mitigate your local waterways. Absolutely.
It's hard to look at that satellite image of that sediment plume and wonder how much was wasted when all that, especially that scour, that shock of scour that we get during storm events, how much is just wiped out of progress we've made.
Is that 185 million tons behind the dam, is that accurate now, or is it a little more?
That's the number we've seen. I don't have anything to dispute that number, but it's a large quantity. And what we would say is, you know, don't bite off more than you can chew. We should be talking about, you know, what would it cost, to your question of cost, which we don't have that number, but I would put it to Exelon. And when we get into the FERC proceeding, these are the things we're going to look for. Or EPA, what are the costs to get 10 years of trapping capacity back? What would it take to get 15 years of trapping? We're not suggesting somebody's got to go up there and dredge 84 years of legacy sediments. You know, there's a lot of issues about what's in those sediments. We talk about nitrogen and phosphorus. We haven't even gotten into the organic matter, the stuff that's in there that hasn't been really thoroughly tested. We wonder why it hasn't been thoroughly tested. I mean, we think...
So you just want to stop the hemorrhages, you know, during even some, right now, where they're saying even mild storm events that push sediment through there.
Right, right.
And how much is that going to cost?
We don't know, but that's the number we're going to get.
But that's the question you want to ask.
Right.
How much is it going to cost to get us to where we're stopping the hemorrhages?
Right. But we start by bringing as much attention to this issue. I mean, much about the coalition we've been doing is to bring honest attention based on our research and analysis, not just to you know, wave our hand and make a lot of noise, but bringing attention in a reasonable way based on information we've read. I mean, all the research we've done is publicly available. We haven't hired a scientist. We've just been analyzing what's already out there, but we look at it differently than others.
What is it going to take for the Clean Chesapeake Coalition to get a seat at the table in these negotiations that are going on with the relicensing?
Well, we intend to intervene this month. The deadline to intervene is the end of this month. So sometime this month we'll formally intervene on behalf of the coalition, and then we have to be involved. You know, we've been trying to, you know, find out what we can without formal intervention, but we'll do that soon, and then I think we will be there and we'll know what's going on. I mean, we've seen in our travels that there seems to be an increased recognition that the issue we're raising is a legitimate issue. And I'll put it this way, the facts are deafening. They really are. We're lawyers, we're advocates, we do present facts in a certain way. We want to get our point across, but anybody that cares about the Chesapeake Bay, that looks at the information we've looked at, and they ought to look at our website, it's all there. When you look at it from this standpoint, the facts are deafening. And that's why we're going to be successful in bringing attention, and I think a major difference. That's why I think we're going to grow this coalition, because what we're saying is really important for the Bay, and you can't dispute it.
You've gotten the attention of Maggie McIntosh, who is the head of the very powerful Environmental Matters Committee in Annapolis, and she's looking at your data and considering being a part of this answer?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we've seen some correspondence from the Chesapeake Bay Commission, which Delegate McIntosh, I think, chairs right now, and they seem to be saying that this is an important issue. They've written to FERC and EPA, as far as we know, saying this is an important issue, and we would echo that. This should be priority number one for improving the water quality of the Bay. It really should be.